Then be quiet. I'm only saying what I see. If you can't stand living like this anymore, then let's get a divorce. I'm sick of this life too, Malik shouted in frustration. He had barely lain down, hoping to catch a few minutes of sleep, when Nia started criticizing him again from beside the bed. Somehow, they had reached a point where everything between them had fallen apart. They used to be the kind of couple everyone admired and envied. But after only a few years of marriage, the distance between them had grown wider and wider. The night before, Malik stayed up with his mother, Brenda, helping a pregnant goat give birth on their small family property outside Houston. They had to keep a close eye on the exhausted animal because one careless movement could crush the newborn kids. By the time everything settled down, the sky was already getting bright. Malik took a quick shower, changed clothes, fixed himself a cup of instant ramen, and finally headed for bed, desperate for a little sleep. The moment he lay down, Nia walked into the room and started talking. The electric bill this month is over $1,500. When you get paid, give me the money so I can pay it. I'm tired of handling every expense by myself. You need to think ahead instead of settling for the way things are. Her words carried more than frustration. They sounded dismissive, almost like she no longer believed in him. Running on almost no sleep, Malik lost his patience and raised his voice. Nia shot back immediately. So now you're yelling at me? You think I wouldn't leave you? If it weren't for Noah, I probably would have done it already. The love I used to have is fading away. I was stupid to marry you and end up living like this. Being handsome doesn't put food on the table. Every sentence cut deeper than the last. Malik remembered the days when they had been inseparable, when their future had seemed full of promise, and wondered how money had changed everything between them. He gave up trying to argue, pulled the blanket over his head, and hoped sleep would drown out the conversation. Seeing that he refused to respond, Nia grabbed her things and left for work. She was worn down herself and couldn't stop asking whether their marriage could survive much longer. As she drove away, memories from 15 years earlier drifted back into her mind, taking her to the beginning of the love story she and Malik had once shared. 15 years earlier, Nia and Malik lived in neighboring communities outside Houston and attended the same high school, but they hardly spoke to each other. Everything changed after Nia was injured in a traffic accident on her way home from school. She escaped with a badly sprained ankle, and when the driver's family came to apologize, everyone realized the person behind the wheel was Tyrone, Malik's older brother. Since the families already knew each other, no lawsuit followed. They accepted the apology and moved on. Because Nia couldn't get herself to school while recovering, Brenda suggested that Malik take responsibility for driving her every day. Nia wasn't thrilled about the arrangement, but she had no better option. For the next month, Malik picked her up each morning, brought her home after classes, and even drove her to after-school activities whenever necessary. Spending so much time together slowly broke the ice between them. Nia was one of the brightest students in school and had never cared much about dating, believing her future depended on education rather than romance. Malik's grades were average, but he was tall, good-looking, and well-liked around campus. As the days passed, Nia realized he was thoughtful and easy to talk to, while Malik admired her intelligence and quiet confidence. Before either of them noticed, friendship turned into affection, and affection quietly became love. By their senior year of high school, Malik finally gathered the courage to tell Nia how he felt. She smiled and accepted without hesitation because she had fallen for him too. They encouraged each other to stay focused on graduation and prepare for college, brushing off friends who insisted that teenage relationships never lasted. Neither of them worried about what might happen years later. They simply believed that if they kept working hard and stayed faithful to each other, everything else would fall into place. After graduation, Nia earned admission to a respected university, while Malik completed a vocational training program close to home. When it was time for her to leave, they said goodbye with a promise to reunite once they had built stable careers. A few years later, Malik landed a job at a manufacturing plant near Houston. Nia graduated soon afterward and found a well-paying office position nearby. With both of them finally standing on their own feet, they decided it was time to get married. Their families supported the relationship from the beginning, believing the two had known each other long enough to build a happy life together. Their wedding became a joyful celebration filled with relatives, neighbors, and lifelong friends. Malik felt lucky to marry a woman as capable and kind as Nia, while Nia believed she had found the dependable man she wanted beside her for the rest of her life. Leon and Brenda were just as proud, convinced that their younger son had chosen the right partner and that the young couple would bring new hope and stability to the family. The first year of marriage was everything Malik and Nia had hoped for. They shared the same home with Leon and Brenda, worked steady jobs, and looked forward to building a future together. Like many families living under one roof, small disagreements occasionally surfaced between Nia and her mother-in-law, but they rarely lasted long. Brenda genuinely cared about her family, though she had a blunt personality and often spoke more harshly than she intended. Nia tried to respect her and let minor comments slide, reminding herself that her mother-in-law meant well, even when her words stung. Because Leon and Brenda insisted on keeping the family together, the young couple never moved into a place of their own. Every weekday, Malik and Nia left for work while Brenda stayed home, cooked meals, and managed the household. Nia contributed money each month to help cover utilities and groceries, but Brenda quietly assumed her son earned much more than he actually did and believed Nia was keeping most of the income for herself. Tension slowly grew from those misunderstandings. On weekends, instead of resting after a long week, Nia often found herself expected to help with chores around the property. Whenever she suggested hiring extra help and offered to pay for it, Brenda refused, insisting she could still handle everything on her own. Then she would come home exhausted and visibly irritated, leaving Nia feeling guilty even though she had tried to help. Even so, Nia admitted to herself that life with Brenda was not entirely unpleasant. Her mother-in-law often cooked special meals for the family, shared fresh food from the property, and looked after everyone in her own way. The one habit Nia could never accept, however, was Brenda's tendency to defend Malik no matter what he did. For all his good qualities, Malik had one habit that constantly frustrated Nia. He spent money as quickly as he earned it. Payday usually meant dinner with friends, drinks, impulse purchases, or expensive groceries the family didn't need. He rarely thought about saving for the future. More than once, he came home with enough food to feed twice the household, only for leftovers to sit untouched until they spoiled. Whenever Nia pointed out the waste, Brenda immediately defended her son, insisting he was only trying to provide something nice for the family. Leon, on the other hand, often agreed with Nia and reminded Malik that careless spending would eventually catch up with him. After Noah was born, the pressure became even greater. Diapers, doctor visits, childcare expenses, and everyday bills stretched the family budget thin. Nia repeatedly asked Malik to set aside part of his paycheck for emergencies, and he always promised he would. Yet every time money landed in his account, temptation won. He would spend freely until his wallet was nearly empty, then regret it afterward and wish he had saved more. The pattern repeated month after month, leaving Nia increasingly discouraged and convinced that she was carrying the family's financial future almost by herself. One afternoon, Malik checked his phone during lunch and saw that his paycheck had been deposited. Without thinking twice, he called a few close friends and invited them out after work, promising that he would cover the bill. When his shift ended, he texted Nia to say he wouldn't be home for dinner and hung up before she could respond. By the time he returned that night, he had already spent a large chunk of his paycheck. Nia took one look at him and lost her patience. "You go out drinking every chance you get. Don't you ever get tired of it? We have a child now. We should be saving money instead of wasting it." Malik tried to laugh it off. "Come on, I only see those guys once in a while." "You say that every single month," Nia shot back. "If Noah gets sick tomorrow, where are we supposed to find the money?" Brenda overheard the argument and stepped in immediately. "He works hard all month. What's wrong with spending a little money with his friends? A man deserves to enjoy himself." Her words only made Nia angrier. That attitude is exactly why he never changes. He spends nearly everything he earns, and then we're left struggling to cover the basics. Brenda insisted her son made plenty of money and accused Nia of exaggerating. Unable to hold back any longer, Nia revealed the truth. "Ask him how much of his paycheck actually comes home. You think he hands me a fortune every month, but most of it disappears before I ever see it." Malik stood there without defending himself. He knew she was telling the truth, yet embarrassment kept him silent. Seeing her son speechless, Brenda assumed he was simply afraid of upsetting his wife and grew even more upset with Nia. Watching Malik refuse to admit his own mistakes left Nia bitterly disappointed. The man she had fallen in love with years ago seemed farther away than ever. Brenda could not accept hearing her son criticized. She insisted Nia looked down on Malik because she had more education and a better-paying job, accusing her of disrespecting both him and the family. Nia fought back through tears, explaining that she had never looked down on her husband. All she wanted was for him to be responsible and think about their future instead of spending every dollar that came into his pocket. The argument grew louder until Leon walked into the room and demanded that everyone calm down. He noticed Malik had disappeared and soon found him passed out on the bed, still asleep from drinking too much. With no point continuing the fight that night, Leon sent everyone back to their rooms. The next morning, he gathered Malik, Nia, and Brenda around the table to get the full story. After listening carefully, he turned to Malik. "Is what Nia said true?" Malik lowered his head and quietly admitted that it was. Leon didn't hide his disappointment. He reminded his son that life had changed now, that he had a wife and child to support. Spending recklessly might have been acceptable when he was single, but a husband and father had to think beyond the next weekend. Then Leon faced Brenda and told her that loving a child did not mean defending every mistake he made. If Malik was wrong, he needed correction, not excuses. Brenda realized she had gone too far by taking her son's side without knowing the facts. Embarrassed, she left the conversation without another word while the others prepared to start their day. After the family meeting ended, Malik and Nia walked back toward their room in silence. Just before she stepped inside, Malik spoke in a low voice. "I know I messed up. Please don't stay mad at me. I'll change. I really will." Nia didn't answer. She simply picked up her bag and left for work. The truth was, her anger never lasted as long as she pretended. Beneath the frustration, she still loved him and wanted to believe he could become the man she had fallen for years earlier. By the next day, most of the tension had faded. Nia felt relieved that she had finally spoken honestly in front of Leon and Brenda, clearing up the misunderstanding that Malik was bringing home large amounts of money every month. Brenda, now aware of how reckless her son had been with his paycheck, stopped interfering in the couple's disagreements. She even told Nia, "You two are adults. From now on, work things out between yourselves. I'm staying out of it." Malik also began making an effort to keep his promise. He cut back on unnecessary spending and reduced the nights out with friends. Although he still slipped up from time to time, he started setting aside a portion of his paycheck and handing it to Nia each month. "Give me a little time," he told her. "I know I've got bad habits, but I'm going to break them." About 2 months later, Leon developed a persistent cough that refused to go away. Day after day, Brenda noticed him struggling to catch his breath, disappearing into the bathroom to cough for long stretches, and looking more exhausted than usual. One evening, she finally asked, "What's going on with you? I keep hearing you coughing all day, and the medicine doesn't seem to be helping." Leon sighed and rubbed his chest. "It's not getting any better. I feel weaker every day. I think I need to have my lungs checked." Brenda nodded with concern. "When the kids get home tonight, I'll ask one of them to take you to the hospital tomorrow. We can't ignore this any longer." After dinner, she told Malik and Nia what had been happening over the past several weeks. "Your dad has been coughing nonstop and losing weight. I'm worried about him." Nia looked carefully at Leon and realized Brenda was right. His face had grown thinner. The dark circles under his eyes were impossible to miss, and his complexion looked dull. "I'm off tomorrow," she said without hesitation. "I'll take Dad to the hospital. Malik can go to work." The following morning, Nia got up early, prepared breakfast, packed food for Brenda and Noah, and drove Leon to the regional medical center. The first round of tests, including blood work and routine examinations, came back mostly normal, which gave her a little hope. The doctors, however, recommended additional imaging and a more thorough evaluation of his lungs before reaching any conclusions. Nia felt relieved when the initial tests showed nothing alarming, but the sense of relief didn't last long. The pulmonologist ordered a CT scan, explaining that the imaging results would not be available until later that afternoon. When Leon's scan was finished, the doctor asked Nia to step into a private consultation room. The moment she sat down, she sensed from his expression that the news was serious. "How old is your father?" the doctor asked. "He's 56, Nia answered quietly. "Does he have children? Is the family close by?" The questions made her stomach tighten. She had a feeling they were preparing her for something devastating. After reviewing the scan, the doctor looked at her and spoke carefully. "We found a sizable mass in his lung. We need to perform a biopsy to determine exactly what it is." He slid a consent form across the desk. "If you agree, please sign here so we can collect a tissue sample for laboratory testing." Nia hesitated before asking the question she feared most. "Do you think it's cancer?" The doctor chose his words with care. We won't know for certain until the biopsy results come back, but based on what we're seeing, there is a very high chance that it's lung cancer." For a few seconds, Nia couldn't find her voice. She stepped outside the room, called Malik, and shared the news as calmly as she could. After a brief silence, he replied, "Whatever it is, we'll deal with it together. Stay with Dad and keep his spirits up. We'll talk when you get home." Gathering herself, Nia returned to the office, signed the paperwork, completed the payment for the biopsy, and later drove Leon back home with an appointment to return the following week for the final results. On the drive home, Leon sat quietly in the passenger seat before finally asking, "Be honest with me, Nia. Is it bad?" She forced a reassuring smile, even though worry weighed heavily on her mind. "The doctors still need the biopsy results before they can be certain. Medicine has come a long way, Dad. Whatever this turns out to be, we'll face it one step at a time." Leon nodded, wanting to believe her. That evening, after dinner, Malik called his older brother, Tyrone, and explained everything the doctors had found. The two brothers agreed they shouldn't wait for the biopsy results before taking further action. If there was even a chance the mass was cancerous, Leon needed the best care available as soon as possible. Tyrone arranged to come home immediately, and the family decided they would take Leon to a major medical center for specialized treatment. Their hope was simple. The sooner he saw experts, the better his chances would be. Tyrone arrived home the very next day, and without wasting any time, he and Malik drove Leon to a major medical center for a full evaluation. After reviewing the scans, running additional tests, and completing the biopsy, the specialists confirmed the family's worst fear. Leon had stage 3 lung cancer. The tumor needed to be removed as soon as possible, followed by an aggressive course of treatment to slow the disease and give him the best chance of survival. The news left everyone devastated. Even though the doctors explained that many patients responded well to modern treatment, the family couldn't help wondering how much time Leon had left or whether they could afford the long road ahead. After lengthy conversations with the medical team, they decided to move forward with surgery without delay. They chose to trust the doctors and hold on to hope rather than live with regret for not trying everything possible. Leon's surgery was successful, but the recovery was far more difficult than anyone had expected. His body was weak, and for weeks he struggled to eat enough to regain his strength. Doctors kept him in the hospital under close observation, providing IV fluids, medication, and constant care while he slowly recovered. During that time, Malik and Tyrone took turns staying by their father's bedside, making sure he was never alone. The long hospital stay forced Malik to miss work again and again until his paycheck was barely enough to cover his own expenses. Before long, the financial burden landed almost entirely on Nia's shoulders. One bill after another emptied the savings she had worked so hard to build. Even so, she refused to complain. Whenever anxiety crept into her mind, she reminded herself that money could always be earned again, but a family member's life could not be replaced. As long as Leon still had a chance to recover, every sacrifice was worth making. Once Leon's condition stabilized, Tyrone had no choice but to return to his job out of state. Before leaving, he handed Nia an envelope with several $1,000s inside. "It's not much," he said, "but use it for Dad's treatment. I know you and Malik are carrying most of the responsibility while I'm away. As soon as I'm able, I'll send more." Nia accepted the money with gratitude, though she couldn't shake the worry that the upcoming rounds of chemotherapy and follow-up care would cost far more than the family could comfortably afford. Surprisingly, Leon's illness began to change the atmosphere at home. Brenda, who had once criticized Nia over the smallest things, saw how tirelessly her daughter-in-law worked to keep the family afloat. She stopped making hurtful remarks and instead focused on helping wherever she could. While Nia was at work, Brenda watched Noah, prepared meals, and handled the household chores. On her days off, she tended the garden and cared for the animals around the property so the family could save money on groceries. She even reminded Malik to appreciate everything his wife was doing and never take her sacrifices for granted. Hearing those words meant more to Nia than Brenda probably realized. For the first time in a long while, she felt that her efforts had truly been recognized. Even though money was tight and the future remained uncertain, Nia never cut corners when it came to Leon's care. Every time he returned home from another round of treatment, she filled the kitchen with fresh fruit, nutritious meals, and whatever supplements the doctors recommended. If Leon mentioned craving a particular food, she would find a way to buy it, no matter how carefully she had to stretch the family budget. She constantly encouraged him to eat well, keep his strength up, and stay optimistic so he could watch Noah grow up. Her kindness and patience lifted everyone's spirits. Over the following months, Leon's condition gradually improved. He never regained the energy he once had, but he was able to walk around the property again and help with simple chores. On good days, he would scatter feed for the chickens, check on the goats, or spend a quiet afternoon outside enjoying the fresh air. Watching him regain even a small measure of independence gave the whole family renewed hope that they could face whatever challenges still lay ahead. Just when the family thought things couldn't get any harder, another setback arrived. The manufacturing company where Malik worked began losing contracts and announced a round of layoffs. Many employees were let go, and Malik's name was on the list. Watching Nia empty their savings to pay Leon's medical bills had changed him. He finally understood the value of every dollar they earned. On payday, he handed his entire check to Nia and kept only enough cash to fill his gas tank. The nights of drinking with friends and careless spending slowly disappeared from his life. Sometimes his old buddies called and invited him out, and he would almost give in, even walking to the front door before stopping himself and turning back inside. Nia noticed the change and felt hopeful. She believed that if Malik stayed responsible and they both kept working, they could support the family and continue paying for Leon's treatment. But losing his job shattered that hope. After leaving the company, Malik didn't rush to find another position. Instead, he stayed home to help Brenda around the property, care for the chickens and goats, and look after Leon during his recovery. Brenda encouraged the decision. "There's plenty to do here," she told him. "I can't manage the house, the animals, and your father all by myself while Nia's working." Nia understood the reasoning and didn't object at first. What she didn't realize was that staying home full-time brought in almost no income. The small garden and livestock barely covered daily expenses, and before long, Malik grew comfortable with that routine. Months turned into years, and the longer he stayed away from the workforce, the harder it became for him to imagine going back. Before long, Malik gave up looking for work altogether. His days revolved around driving Noah to school, helping Brenda around the property, and taking care of chores at home. Whenever Nia encouraged him to apply for another job, he always found a reason to say no. "I like working here," he would tell her. "I can manage my own time, and nobody's standing over my shoulder." Nia tried not to argue, but disappointment kept building inside her. One day, her friend Yvette mentioned that her family's home improvement supply company was hiring warehouse staff and asked if Malik might be interested. Thinking it was the perfect opportunity, Nia brought it up that evening. "Yvette's company needs someone in the warehouse. Why don't you go talk to them?" Malik shook his head almost immediately. "I'm not working for your friend. That would be too awkward." No matter how much she tried to persuade him, he refused to reconsider. Nia slowly realized that the confident, ambitious man she had fallen in love with years earlier seemed to be fading away. The change in Malik also changed something inside her. She stopped admiring him the way she once had and found herself comparing him to other husbands she met through work. Whenever coworkers asked what her husband did for a living, she felt embarrassed trying to answer. Instead of planning a future together, she began thinking only about taking care of herself and Noah. As Malik settled into life at home, Nia slowly became someone she barely recognized. She stopped caring how much money he earned because, in her mind, he had already chosen not to chase a better future. She focused on paying the bills herself and decided that whatever she made belonged to her and Noah. She started leaving early, coming home late, and spending more time away from the house whenever she could. Shopping also became an escape. She bought shoes, handbags, and clothes she didn't truly need, almost as if every purchase helped her forget the pressure she carried every day. One evening, she returned home with several shopping bags in her hands. Looking at the pile, Malik couldn't help saying, "Don't you think we should cut back a little? We ought to save for the future." Nia turned toward him with disbelief. "You're really the one giving me advice about spending?" She shot back. "Take a good look at yourself before you lecture anyone else." Her words left Malik speechless. He knew she had every reason to be angry. Years earlier, he had wasted paycheck after paycheck without thinking about tomorrow. Quietly accepting the criticism, he walked out of the room without another word. From that day on, he stopped commenting on anything she bought. They still lived under the same roof, but each of them handled life alone, speaking less and less until silence became the normal state of their marriage. The growing silence between Malik and Nia didn't go unnoticed. Brenda watched them pass each other every day with barely a conversation and finally decided to ask what was wrong. One afternoon, she called Nia aside and gently said, "You haven't seemed like yourself lately. Did Malik do something to upset you?" Nia didn't hesitate. Since you asked, I'll be honest. I can't accept the fact that he refuses to go back to work. He's healthy, he has skills, and he's still young. I think he should be out there building a future instead of staying home all the time. Brenda immediately defended her son. He isn't sitting around doing nothing. He helps with the property and takes care of the family. Nia shook her head. That's not what I mean. We're not retired. We still have a child to raise and medical bills to pay. Working a regular job gives you experience, stability, and real income. Staying home to manage a few animals and a small piece of land isn't enough. Brenda admitted Nia had a point but still felt Malik shouldn't be pushed into something he didn't want to do. If he goes back to work and falls into his old habits again, we'll be right back where we started. Nia answered quietly but firmly. Whether someone wastes money or saves, it is a choice. Nobody forces them to spend every dollar they earn. Brenda realized there was little she could say in response. Knowing the argument was going nowhere, she ended the conversation and walked away, leaving the tension hanging in the air. When evening came, Brenda told Leon about her conversation with Nia. After listening quietly, he agreed with almost everything his daughter-in-law had said. The next morning, once Nia had left for work, he called Malik over to the porch. I'm doing better now, Leon began. You don't need to stay home because of me anymore. If your old company isn't hiring, find another one. You're still young and you have valuable skills. You should be out there earning a living. Malik tried to explain himself. I figured staying here made more sense. Every time you have a medical appointment, I can take you without worrying about asking for time off. I can also help Mom with the property. Leon shook his head. That sounds reasonable, but it puts too much pressure on Nia. A husband shouldn't expect his wife to carry the financial burden alone. Your mother and I can manage things here. What this family needs most is a steady paycheck. Malik fell silent. Hearing his father say those words forced him to look at the situation from a different angle. He realized that while he believed he was helping, he had unintentionally left Nia to shoulder responsibilities that should have belonged to both of them. By the end of the conversation, he made up his mind. That night, he would sit down with Nia, tell her he planned to return to work, and ask her to face the future with him as a team once again. That evening, Malik walked toward the bedroom, planning to tell Nia that he had decided to look for work again. Before he reached the door, he heard her talking on the phone with her coworker, Renee. So are you bringing your husband to tomorrow's company gathering? Renee asked with a laugh. Nia answered without hesitation. No thanks. You can bring yours. Mine would only embarrass me. Renee sounded surprised. Why? Malik's a handsome guy. Put him in a nice suit and plenty of women would notice him. Nia let out a dry laugh. And when someone asks what my husband does for a living, what am I supposed to say? That he stays home taking care of chickens and goats? I'd rather avoid the conversation altogether. Renee laughed on the other end of the call and joked that there was nothing wrong with honest work, but the damage had already been done. Standing outside the room, Malik felt every word sink in. He had expected Nia to be disappointed in him, but he never imagined she was ashamed to be seen with him. The conversation ended, and Nia went to bed without realizing he had overheard everything. Malik remained where he was for a while, wondering whether the woman who had once believed in him still loved him at all. For the first time, he questioned whether their marriage had already reached a point where it could no longer be saved. The next day unfolded exactly as Malik feared. Nia never mentioned the company gathering or invited him to come along. She got dressed, left the house by herself, and spent the evening with her coworkers while he stayed home. Even though he had already decided he probably wouldn't attend, being excluded without a word hurt more than he expected. It confirmed the suspicion that had been growing inside him, that Nia no longer saw him as someone she was proud to stand beside. From that point on, the emotional distance between them only widened. Nia, worn down by years of financial pressure, became increasingly impatient and quick to complain whenever money was tight. Malik, weighed down by guilt and humiliation, withdrew into himself and spoke less with each passing day. One evening, another argument over expenses spiraled out of control. After listening in silence for far too long, Malik finally raised his voice. If you don't love me anymore, then maybe we should just end this. Nia fired back in anger and stormed out of the room, leaving him alone. Exhausted from spending the previous night helping with the animals around the property, Malik eventually drifted off to sleep. The days that followed settled into a painful routine. He picked Noah up from school, played with him for a while, then spent most evenings outside until it was time for bed. Nia barely paid attention to where he went or what he did. She had tried to push him toward finding work, but after being ignored so many times, she decided to stop trying. Neither of them was willing to take the first step toward reconciliation, and without realizing it, they slipped into a silent war that neither knew how to end. After days of wrestling with his thoughts, Malik finally made up his mind. He would leave home and head north to start over in a new city. Part of him wanted a fresh challenge, but another part hoped the distance would give Nia time to think about what was left of their marriage. He had overheard some of her friends telling her that if she was unhappy, she should simply end the relationship instead of forcing herself to stay. Every time those conversations came up, Nia never argued, but she never agreed either. Her silence left Malik wondering what was truly in her heart. Did she stay because she still loved him, or because divorce would hurt too many people around them? The questions followed him everywhere. He knew ending a marriage was nothing like ending a romance. There was Noah to think about, their parents, and the family they had built together. That uncertainty was one of the reasons he chose to leave instead of demanding answers. Before departing, Malik wanted to spend one last afternoon with his closest friends. It had been a long time since they had shared a meal, especially after Leon became ill and life turned upside down. He called one of them and said, "Get everyone together this afternoon. I'm leaving soon, and I'd like to see you guys before I go." By mid-afternoon, the three friends had arrived at the house. Malik prepared one of the chickens raised on the family property. Brenda picked fresh vegetables from the garden, and together they put together a simple homemade meal. The food wasn't fancy, but it reflected the life they had built over the years. Hard work, homegrown ingredients, and the comfort of familiar company. As they sat around the table laughing and catching up, Malik quietly wondered when he would see moments like this again. The afternoon carried on with laughter and easy conversation until Nia pulled into the driveway after work. The moment she saw Malik sitting outside with his friends sharing food and drinks, her expression darkened. In her eyes, he had spent too long avoiding a steady job, and now he seemed carefree enough to entertain guests while she carried the family's financial burden. One of the men greeted her warmly. "Nia, you're home! Come join us for a bite." She forced a polite smile but shook her head. "Thanks, but I'm exhausted. Some of us don't have the luxury of staying home all day." The remark landed like a stone in the middle of the table. The conversation stopped instantly. Malik's friends exchanged uncomfortable glances, unsure how to respond, while Malik felt his face burn with embarrassment. He wanted to defend himself, yet he knew arguing would only make the situation worse. "Go get some rest," he said quietly. "I'll take care of Noah and help Mom with dinner later." Nia didn't answer. She walked straight into the house without looking back. The cheerful mood disappeared after that. Sensing they had overstayed their welcome, Malik's friends finished their food, patted him on the shoulder, and made excuses to leave. Once the yard was empty again, Malik stood alone, gathering plates and cleaning up the table in silence. He had planned to tell Nia that he would be leaving for a new job in another city, but after what had happened, the words no longer seemed worth saying. The next evening, Malik picked Noah up from daycare, gave him a bath, and headed into the kitchen. He wanted to prepare dinner himself, choosing dishes Nia used to love years ago. When everyone gathered around the table, Noah's eyes lit up. "Dad made fried sausage and sweet and sour ribs. These are my favorites." Brenda smiled as she placed another piece on her grandson's plate. "Looks like someone's happy tonight." Then she turned to Nia. "Malik even made the ribs you always liked. Eat a little more." Without saying a word, Malik reached across the table and gently placed a piece of rib into Nia's bowl. She looked down at it for a second before picking it up and putting it back onto the serving plate. "Go ahead and eat," Malik said softly. "I made it because I thought you'd enjoy it." Nia's expression never changed. "I used to like it. I don't anymore." Malik gave a faint nod. "People change, I guess." "Exactly," she replied. "People change. Tastes change, too." The words settled heavily over the table. Malik felt a lump rise in his throat but forced himself to stay calm. "Then eat whatever you like." "I didn't know your preferences had changed." Seeing the tension between them, Leon finally spoke. "A marriage can't survive if both people keep everything bottled up inside. If something's wrong, talk about it instead of letting resentment grow." Nia quietly acknowledged his advice, and the meal continued in uneasy silence. Just before everyone finished eating, Malik looked around the table and announced, "I'm leaving tomorrow. I've decided to take a job up north for a while." Brenda immediately objected. asking why he needed to go so far away when there were opportunities closer to home. Leon, however, stopped her. Let him go. A young man should see more of the world and find his own path. Through the entire conversation, Nia remained calm, finished her meal, and began clearing the dishes as if nothing important had just been said. Later that night, after Noah had fallen asleep, Nia sat in front of the bedroom mirror quietly applying her skincare products. She hadn't spoken to Malik since coming home from work, and the silence between them felt heavier than ever. Sitting on the edge of the bed, Malik watched her for a long moment before finally breaking the quiet. "I'm leaving tomorrow. Aren't you going to say anything?" Nia kept her eyes on the mirror. "You wanted to find a job again. Isn't that what I've been asking for?" "That's not what I mean," Malik replied. "I'll be far away this time." She set the bottle down and answered without emotion. "Whether you stay or leave is your decision. It doesn't change what I have to do tomorrow." Her response landed like ice in Malik's chest. He searched her face, hoping to find some sign that she wanted him to stay, some hint that she still cared enough to ask him not to go. Instead, all he found was silence. Deep inside, he wished she would turn around and say, "Don't leave. Stay here with us." If she had, he would have abandoned the plan immediately and looked for work close to home instead. But the words never came. Nia simply continued getting ready for bed without another glance in his direction. In that quiet room, Malik felt the last of his hope slip away. He convinced himself that if any love remained between them, she would have fought to keep him from leaving. The following afternoon, Malik packed the last of his belongings and got ready to leave. His flight was scheduled for late in the day, but Nia never offered to drive him to the airport or even asked what time he was leaving. He didn't bring it up either. In the end, the only person who came to see him off was his longtime friend. During the drive, the two men talked about ordinary things, avoiding the sadness that hung between them. When they arrived at the terminal, it was almost time to check in. Malik picked up his bag and turned to his friend. "Take care of everyone while I'm gone. Stop by the house when you can and keep my parents company." His friend nodded. "Don't worry about things here. Just focus on getting settled and making something of yourself." They exchanged a quick embrace before Malik walked into the terminal alone. As he waited to board, thoughts of Noah and the family he had left behind filled his mind. More than anything, he hoped the time apart would help Nia remember the bond they once shared. Maybe distance would soften the resentment between them and remind her that, despite all their struggles, they had once built their lives on genuine love. Carrying that fragile hope with him, Malik boarded the plane and headed toward an uncertain future. After landing in his new city, Malik was greeted by his old friend Reggie, whom he hadn't seen in nearly a decade. Reggie gave him a warm hug and drove him through town, catching up on everything that had happened over the years. "You've done well for yourself," Malik said as they pulled into a spacious house with a beautifully maintained yard. Reggie laughed. "I got lucky. After high school, I came here with nothing. Things were rough at first, but after I married Tasha, her family helped us start a small electrical supply business. We worked hard, expanded it little by little, and now we've got a few locations running." Hearing that Malik had experience with electrical maintenance, Reggie immediately made him an offer. "Forget looking somewhere else. Come work with me. I've been trying to find someone reliable, and you're exactly what I need. Stay here until you get on your feet. We'll take care of the rest." Before Malik could answer, Tasha stepped outside to welcome him. She greeted him with a smile, invited him in for dinner, and made him feel like part of the family from the moment he arrived. Their kindness eased some of the loneliness he had carried with him from home. After thinking it over, Malik accepted Reggie's offer and decided to start this new chapter alongside his old friend. 5 days after arriving, Malik officially started working with Reggie. From that day forward, no matter how busy he was, he made a point of calling home every evening to check on Leon, Brenda, and little Noah. Whenever his name appeared on the phone, Nia would answer the call, but only for a brief moment. Without exchanging more than a few words, she would immediately hand the phone to Noah and let father and son talk. She refused to stay on the line herself. She never asked whether Malik had settled into his new surroundings, whether he had adjusted to the job, whether he was taking care of himself, or whether he missed his family back home. After Noah finished chatting with his father, the call ended just as quietly as it had begun. Day after day, the same routine repeated itself. Malik waited for even a simple question or a few words of concern from Nia, but they never came. Her cold and distant attitude left him deeply saddened. Even after he had gone so far away, she still showed no sign that her resentment had faded, and he couldn't help believing that she had yet to forgive him. 3 weeks later, while Malik was busy working at Reggie's electrical supply store, a woman walked in wearing dark sunglasses, a black dress, and carrying a designer handbag. She appeared to be in her 40s and carried herself with confidence and style. From the way she spoke and acted, Malik guessed she was a longtime customer and a local. Looking around and not seeing Reggie, she asked, "Is Reggie here?" Malik replied, "He's busy preparing inventory shipments right now. Is there something I can help you with?" The woman nodded. "I was hoping to have someone replace the air conditioning units at several of my stores. The old ones are wearing out." Malik answered, "I can handle that. I'm Reggie's friend, and I recently moved here. I studied electrical work and have experience with installations." "That's great," she said. "Let me call Reggie first." She took out her phone, spoke with him for a few minutes, then ended the call. Before leaving, she reminded Malik, "Come by this afternoon and take care of it for me. Reggie will give you the address." Later that day, Reggie sent a driver with equipment and took Malik to the woman's business. On the way, he explained that her name was Vanessa. She owned a chain of upscale fashion boutiques in the area, had been divorced for 5 years, and was one of his regular customers. Whenever she needed new electrical equipment or repairs for her stores or home, she always came to Reggie's company. After that first job, Vanessa began stopping by Reggie's store more and more often. Sometimes she came to buy electrical equipment, other times she asked Malik to fix something at one of her boutiques. As they met repeatedly and talked more, the two gradually became familiar with each other. One day, while Reggie was away, Vanessa looked at Malik and said, "Malik, I think you're hardworking, good-looking, and present yourself well. The fashion business values those qualities. I want you to come work for me as my assistant. The job is cleaner, easier, and pays better than what you're doing here. Honestly, I don't think this kind of heavy work suits someone like you." Malik smiled politely and shook his head. "I'm used to this work. It's the trade I learned, so I'd rather stay with it." Even after being turned down, Vanessa did not give up. In the days that followed, she continued visiting the store and bringing up the same offer. Little by little, her words made Malik think. He admitted to himself that she was right about one thing. His appearance was one of his strengths. He was tall, athletic, and took care of himself. Perhaps he really could make better use of those advantages. He also remembered how little he had earned in his old factory job and how quickly he had wasted the money. After Leon became ill and he stayed home, the financial burden had fallen almost entirely on Nia, causing endless resentment between them. Now an opportunity to earn more money had appeared in front of him. He wondered whether succeeding in a better career might allow him to support his family properly and prove that he was not the failure Nia believed him to be. With those thoughts in mind, Malik finally agreed to meet Vanessa privately to discuss the position in detail. The following evening, Malik met Vanessa at an upscale restaurant to talk about the job. When he arrived, she was already waiting at the table. Several dishes had been prepared, and a bottle of wine sat in the center. Surprised, Malik asked, "I thought we were meeting to discuss work." Vanessa smiled. "I live alone and usually eat alone. Since you're here, we can have dinner and talk at the same time." Malik nodded awkwardly and took his seat. "Could you tell me more about the position?" As she poured him a glass of wine, Vanessa explained, "I own a chain of fashion boutiques, so I need someone to help manage the stores. Whenever I travel for business, you'll come with me. That's basically the job. Think it over, and if you agree, you can start tomorrow." Malik thanked her but replied honestly, "I've never been formally trained for this kind of work. I'm afraid I won't do a good job and might disappoint you." Vanessa shook her head. "You're wrong. Ability matters, but attitude matters even more. I value honest and humble people like you." Too many young people today graduate thinking they already know everything. When the conversation ended, the two walked out together. At the parking area, Vanessa opened her car, took out a paper shopping bag, and handed it to him. "I bought this dress shirt for you. Your complexion is fair, and you're tall. I think it'll look good on you." Malik immediately tried to refuse. "I can't accept this. I haven't even done anything for you yet." Vanessa smiled. "It's only a shirt. Just take it." Seeing that she insisted, Malik finally accepted the gift and thanked her before getting on his motorcycle to head home. That night, he lay awake for a long time, wondering whether accepting the new job was the right decision and whether it would bring him the future he hoped for. Around 11 o'clock, he picked up his phone and sent Nia a message. Are you asleep yet? I miss you and Noah so much. After waiting without a reply, he sent another. Do you miss me at all? He stared at the screen for a long time, hoping it would light up with an answer, but nothing came. Eventually, he convinced himself that she and Noah must already be asleep. He set the phone aside and drifted off without receiving a single response. By the next day, Malik got up early as usual and walked around the yard at Reggie's house, enjoying the cool morning air. After Reggie and Tasha woke up, Tasha brought 2 cups of coffee to the stone table in the yard. "Have some coffee," she said with a smile. Malik thanked her and complimented the drink. Tasha joked, "Is it the coffee keeping you awake, or are you thinking about your wife back home?" The light-hearted conversation ended when Malik turned to Reggie and Tasha and said, "I'm sorry for troubling you these past few weeks, but I found another job. Starting today, I'll move out and live on my own. Since I won't be working for your business anymore, I shouldn't keep staying here." Reggie was surprised. "You've already found something else? Why leave? Is the pay here too low?" Malik shook his head. "No, I just want to try something different." Tasha respected his decision and wished him success, asking him to stop by whenever he had time. After she went inside, Reggie stayed behind and quietly asked, "You're going to work for Vanessa, aren't you?" Malik admitted that he was. Reggie didn't try to stop him, but offered a warning. "You've made up your mind, so I won't interfere. Just be careful. There are plenty of jobs out there, but not every opportunity turns out the way it looks. You're still new here and don't know everyone yet. Whatever happens, remember I'm here if you need me." After finishing their coffee, Malik packed his belongings and moved into the apartment Vanessa had arranged for him. The following morning, he put on the dress shirt she had given him and prepared to leave. But Vanessa called and told him to wait because she was coming to pick him up herself. She explained that on his first day, she wanted to show him the company's stores, so it would be easier if they traveled together. On the way, she stopped at a shoe store and insisted on buying him a new pair of dress shoes. Embarrassed, Malik suggested buying his own later, but Vanessa replied that anyone working in the fashion industry needed to dress professionally. He accepted the gift, and together they spent the rest of the day visiting the company's boutiques. On the drive back that afternoon, Vanessa began telling Malik about her past. She said she had married when she was 25. The first few years of the marriage had been happy, but they never had children. Eventually, her husband started seeing another woman, and when Vanessa found out, the marriage ended in divorce. Afterward, she devoted herself to expanding her fashion business and built it into the success it was today. Even with money and achievement, she admitted that she often felt lonely because she still had not found the right person to share her life with. Listening to her story, Malik couldn't help thinking about his own marriage with Nia. Their problems seemed small at first, but over time those unresolved conflicts had quietly grown into something capable of destroying their family. Seeing that he looked troubled, Vanessa asked, "You seem unhappy? Is something bothering you?" After a brief silence, Malik opened up. He told her everything about his relationship with Nia, from their beautiful love story and happy wedding to the misunderstandings, financial struggles, and constant arguments that had driven them apart. He explained that he believed they still loved each other, but neither of them was willing to be the first to say it or let go of old resentment. When he finished, Vanessa smiled faintly and said, "Young love always sounds romantic. I had that once too. We used to spend hours together talking about everything. But after marriage, reality takes over. Bills, responsibilities, and everyday pressures leave very little room for romance. Sometimes love fades before people even realize it." Malik nodded quietly. "That's sad," Vanessa replied. "It is. Meet the right person at the wrong time, and you can lose an entire chapter of your life. Real life isn't a fairy tale." Malik listened to her words without realizing that behind them lay feelings she had never spoken aloud. The next morning, Vanessa took Malik to one of the company's clothing stores. "This location specializes in suits," she told him. "What do you think of them?" Malik looked around before answering, "Honestly, I rarely wear suits, so I don't really know enough to judge." Vanessa smiled. "All of our staff receive training in fashion. Little by little, I'll teach you too. If you're going to manage stores, you need to understand the products." She then gave him his first assignment. "Start with something simple. Pick a playlist for the store. If I like it, we'll use it across all of our locations." Malik hesitated. "I thought I was only going to be your assistant. I don't think I can manage stores," Vanessa replied. "You'll learn." I'm busy with too many things, so eventually I'll hand much of the day-to-day management over to you. Have confidence in yourself." A few moments later, she handed a suit to one of the employees and said, "Take Malik to try this on and bring him a shirt as well." When he came out wearing the suit, Vanessa looked at him with satisfaction. "It fits you perfectly. A 2-button jacket suits your build." She stepped forward, straightened the front of the jacket, fastened the buttons, then reached up as if adjusting the collar of his shirt. Her hand brushed against his chest. Malik instinctively stepped backward. Realizing his reaction, Vanessa immediately withdrew her hand and said, "Let's head to the next store before we're late." Malik turned to change back into his own clothes, but Vanessa stopped him. "Keep the suit on. Tonight you're coming with me to the grand opening of a friend's business." He had no real way to refuse and reluctantly agreed. During the drive, she noticed he seemed uncomfortable wearing the jacket and casually told him he could unbutton it until they arrived. Then she asked whether he had a driver's license. When Malik admitted he had never gotten one, Vanessa offered to pay the enrollment fees and deduct the cost from his future salary. Thinking it might be useful one day, he agreed. While they were on the road, Brenda called. She asked how he was doing and reminded him that if things didn't work out, he could always come home. Malik assured her he was settling in. Brenda then told him that Leon had been coughing more often again and that Noah had recently developed pneumonia, forcing Nia to miss several days of work to care for him while also looking after Leon. Hearing that, Malik felt a pang of guilt. He knew how much pressure Nia was carrying. He promised himself that once he received his next paycheck, he would send money home to help with the family's expenses. That evening, after returning from the grand opening event, Vanessa said she had been drinking and was not in a condition to drive. She asked Malik to call a taxi so they could ride home together. Inside the taxi, Vanessa complained that she felt warm, took off the shawl from her shoulders, and leaned back in her seat. When the car hit a bump, her head fell against Malik's shoulder. He gently tried to help her sit upright again, but she deliberately turned toward him and rested her head on his shoulder once more. Then she reached over and took his hand. Malik immediately felt uncomfortable and asked the driver to go faster. After the taxi stopped at Vanessa's house and made sure she got inside safely, he took another cab back to his rented room. The moment he entered, he rushed straight into the bathroom, turned on the cold water, and splashed it over his face again and again until he finally calmed himself down. A little later, he picked up his phone and called Nia. She answered with her usual flat tone. "Hello. What is it?" Malik said quietly. "Nothing. I just miss you and Noah. Let me talk to Noah for a minute." Nia replied, "He's already asleep. Call another time," and ended the call. Malik sat down in silence. He wondered how long she intended to keep treating him this way. He was already working again and planned to send money home, yet every conversation between them lasted only a few cold sentences. He wished she would simply tell him that she still loved him and still missed him. In his heart, he believed that if she ever said those words, he would leave everything behind and return home immediately. Time passed, and Malik settled into a steady routine. Every day, he visited the company's stores, and whenever there were meetings or negotiations with business partners, he accompanied Vanessa. After he earned his driver's license, Vanessa handed over one of her cars for him to drive, so in addition to helping manage the boutiques, he also became her regular driver. One day, she took him to a luxury restaurant to meet a potential business partner. Following all the guidance Vanessa had given him, Malik handled the discussion confidently and successfully secured the deal. The client even praised him in front of Vanessa, leaving him feeling more confident while making Vanessa visibly proud of her decision to hire him. On the way back, she congratulated him repeatedly and suggested they celebrate. When Malik agreed, Vanessa proposed going to her house because she already had food and wine prepared there. Although he hesitated, saying it might be inconvenient, she assured him that company staff often gathered at her home for celebrations. Trusting her explanation, Malik agreed to go. Vanessa's car pulled into the driveway of her 3-story home in an upscale neighborhood. By the time they arrived, it was around 8 o'clock in the evening, and the area was quiet. As soon as Malik stepped inside, he was struck by the elegant interior. The house was decorated mainly in white and gray tones, and everything looked luxurious. While he walked around taking it all in, Vanessa placed food and wine on the table and asked, "Beautiful house, isn't it?" Malik nodded. "It's beautiful." Vanessa smiled. "If you want one like this someday, you can have it too." Malik laughed awkwardly. "Someone like me could never afford a house like yours." She looked at him and replied, As long as you want it, it's possible. Trust me. Come sit down. The two sat across from each other. Vanessa poured wine into their glasses, and they raised them in celebration. Malik took a large drink and immediately set his glass down, his face tightening from the taste. Seeing that, Vanessa lifted the glass again and handed it back to him. He finished it, and she poured another. Looking around the spacious house, Malik asked, "Don't you feel lonely living here by yourself?" Vanessa answered quietly, "If you're lonely, you stay lonely even in a crowd. 10 people or 100 people mean nothing if there's no one you can truly share your life with." She moved her chair closer to him and continued, "You're troubled because of your relationship too, aren't you? Everyone runs into problems like that. Don't dwell on them." Malik remained silent. Vanessa handed him another glass, and he drank it. Then she reached out and lightly touched his cheek. If love leaves, another love can come. When Malik still did not react, she gently rested her head on his shoulder and whispered, "Let me lean on you for just a little while." She closed her eyes and stayed there, while Malik quietly poured himself another drink after another, trying to drown his loneliness, forget how much he missed Nia, and suppress the desire stirring inside him. Before long, the alcohol took its toll. Seeing that he was intoxicated, Vanessa helped him into a bedroom and laid him on the bed. Kneeling beside him, she leaned down and kissed him. Half conscious, Malik murmured, "Don't," but Vanessa did not stop. She continued kissing him while her hands reached for the buttons on his shirt. He caught her wrist and tried to push her away, but she held on to him and guided his arm around her back. Feeling her body against his through the thin fabric of her dress, Malik's remaining self-control gave way. No longer sober enough to resist, he pulled Vanessa into his arms, rolled over, and kissed her passionately. Later that night, Malik betrayed his wife. The next morning, when he opened his eyes, he was startled to find himself lying in bed without a single piece of clothing on. Still confused and trying to understand what had happened, he saw Vanessa walk into the room. "You're awake," she said. Embarrassed, Malik quickly apologized. "I'm sorry. I drank too much last night." Vanessa walked over, climbed onto the bed, and sat beside him with a playful smile. "So last night only happened because you were drunk. Is that what you're saying?" Malik nodded awkwardly. "Yes," Vanessa smiled with obvious satisfaction. "I told you before, there's nothing about you that I don't like. Last night proved it." Her bold attitude made Malik blush. He hurriedly grabbed the clothes lying at the foot of the bed and held them against himself. Vanessa stood up and said, "Get dressed and come downstairs for breakfast," then left the room. When Malik reached the dining table, he picked up his phone and realized it had run out of battery. After turning it back on, he discovered numerous missed calls from his older brother, all beginning around 10:30 the previous night. He immediately called him back. "Where have you been?" Tyrone answered anxiously. "I've been trying to reach you since last night. Get back here right away. Dad's condition got worse and he was rushed to the hospital yesterday around 5 in the afternoon. I wanted us to book flights together, but I couldn't get in touch with you. I'm already at the airport and catching the 8 o'clock flight. Hurry and arrange your ticket. If you can't do it yourself, ask Reggie to help." Malik barely had time to respond before the call ended. The moment he heard that Leon had been hospitalized, the color drained from his face. He dropped into a chair in shock. Seeing his expression, Vanessa asked, "What happened? Is something wrong at home?" Malik answered, "My father is seriously ill. He was admitted to the hospital yesterday. I have to leave immediately." "Then let me go with you," Vanessa said immediately. "How could that be?" Malik replied, "It's fine. I'll go with you to take care of your father. I'll book the plane tickets right away. I know people who can arrange them immediately. If you try to book now, you might not get a seat in time. Besides, I'm familiar with traveling here, while you're still not used to it and could run into delays." Hearing that, and being so worried about Leon, Malik did not think much about it. He agreed to let Vanessa book the tickets, and the two of them flew north that same day. After landing, they took a taxi straight to the hospital where Leon was being treated. Tyrone was the only one waiting outside the emergency room. "Brother, how's Dad?" Malik asked. "You're here," Tyrone answered. "Dad's still inside the emergency room. We still don't know what's happening. Yesterday, Nia and our younger cousin brought him here. This morning, after I arrived, I told them to go home and rest and take care of Noah. Now that you're here, the two of us can stay." "Yes," Malik replied. "After I got off the phone with you, I was so worried that I came back immediately." Tyrone looked at Vanessa and asked, "Who is this?" Malik introduced her. This is Vanessa, my boss. Yesterday I panicked, and she booked the tickets and came back with me. Vanessa greeted him politely. Hello, I'm Vanessa. Malik has mentioned you before. I heard you've been working in the South for many years. Is that right? Yes, Tyrone replied. Maybe we'll have a chance to meet again in the future, Vanessa said. Of course. And thank you for helping my brother, Tyrone answered. Vanessa smiled. It was nothing. Malik is very capable. Tyrone then asked, So why are you here today? Vanessa replied, I happen to have a business trip in this area, so I came back with Malik while I was here. The three of them then sat together on the benches outside the emergency room. Leon remained inside all night. None of them slept. Seeing Malik and Tyrone staying awake, Vanessa went out and bought milk, nutritional drinks, fruit, and other refreshments for the two brothers. She stayed at the hospital with them throughout the night, waiting for news about Leon. The morning after, the doctors informed the family that Leon's lung cancer had returned and the disease had already spread to other internal organs. His physical condition was too weak for surgery, and even if an operation were attempted, the chances of improvement were very low. After discussing the situation with the family, the doctors advised them to take him home and focus on caring for him there. When Leon returned home, relatives, neighbors, and friends came to visit every day to encourage both him and the family. Vanessa also accompanied Malik back to the house. She stayed until the afternoon, then excused herself, saying she had work to take care of. In reality, she went back to the city, rented a hotel room, and stayed there. Nia saw that Malik had returned with a beautiful female executive, but Vanessa explained that she happened to have business in the area and came to visit Leon while she was there. The house was crowded with visitors that day, so Nia paid little attention to Vanessa and did not suspect anything about her relationship with Malik. Tyrone, however, noticed something different. From the time they had been at the hospital, he had observed Vanessa's expressions, her behavior, and the way she looked at his younger brother. Those small details convinced him that she had feelings for Malik. One day, Tyrone called Malik into his room and asked him directly, Is there something going on between you and Vanessa? Malik looked confused. What do you mean? Tyrone continued. Just tell me the truth. From the way she acts, I can tell she likes you. I want to know whether anything has already happened between the two of you. If it has, you need to end it immediately. If Nia ever finds out, there'll be serious trouble. Malik stayed silent for a moment before finally admitting the truth. He confessed that after drinking too much, he had slept with Vanessa. Tyrone frowned and asked, So what are you going to do now? Malik shook his head. I honestly don't know, Tyrone replied. If you ask me, you need to stop this right now. Dad is seriously ill and nobody knows what's going to happen. Tell her clearly that it's over and let her go back. If you keep dragging this out, you'll never get away from it. Ever since the night at Vanessa's house, Malik had felt guilty toward Nia. But after coming home, Nia still treated him with the same distant attitude, and that only made him feel worse. Every day, he stayed by Leon's side, helping care for him, and at night, he and Tyrone took turns massaging their father's arms and legs, leaving him with little time to think about anything else. After hearing his brother's advice, Malik realized Tyrone was right. If Nia ever learned what had happened between him and Vanessa, she would almost certainly leave him. As night fell, Malik decided to go outside and call Vanessa to make his feelings clear. Hello, Malik, Vanessa answered. Has your father gotten any better? I was planning to fly out tomorrow to visit him. I miss you too, Malik replied. My father's condition is still the same. We have to stay up at night to take care of him. Vanessa reminded him, Make sure you eat properly and take care of yourself, or you'll get sick too. After a brief pause, Malik said, Vanessa, I'm sorry about what happened the other night. I drank too much and couldn't control myself. I hope you can forgive me. My father is seriously ill, and I don't even know whether he'll survive, so I'm going to stay here with my family. I won't be coming back. I hope you understand. Thank you for everything you've done for me, Vanessa answered softly. If you say that, it makes me very sad. If you can't come back because of your father, then I'll fly out to see you from time to time. And if you quit your job, who am I supposed to rely on? Malik replied firmly, Let's stop here. I have a wife, a child, and a family. But Vanessa refused. I don't want that. Think about it carefully. We can keep things the way they are. We only need to see each other once in a while. Malik shook his head even though she could not see him. No, I'm sorry. Please go back. I won't see you again. With that, He ended the call. After hearing Malik say he wanted to cut off their relationship, Vanessa felt deeply upset. She believed she was attractive, successful, and wealthy, yet he was rejecting her. The next day, Vanessa took a bus to Malik's house. It was Tuesday, so Nia was at work and not at home. By then, Leon had been back from the hospital for some time. His condition had not improved, and there were no longer as many visitors as during the first few days after his return. Vanessa sat with Leon for a while and asked about his health. After that, she called Malik outside and told him she was going back, but before flying back, she wanted him to come down to the city and take her to the airport. At first, Malik refused. However, Vanessa kept pleading with him and said that if he did not come, she would not leave. Malik thought about how much she had helped him. She had booked his plane ticket when he rushed home and had accompanied him the whole way. Because of that, he finally agreed and promised that 2 days later he would go to the hotel where she was staying and drive her to the airport. After getting Malik's promise, Vanessa asked permission to leave and said goodbye to Leon. As soon as she was gone, Tyrone asked his younger brother, "Have you talked things through with her?" "I have," Malik answered. "And what did she say?" Tyrone asked again. "She told me that in 2 days I should come to the city and take her to the airport." "She asked you to take her?" Tyrone said. "Or did you volunteer?" Malik replied. "She wanted me to do it. I also feel like she's been good to me, so I agreed. We're not going to see each other again anyway." "You're crazy," Tyrone said. "Do you really think she just wants you to drive her to the airport? If you go, that old fox won't let you come back so easily. Leave it to me." Tyrone told Malik that he would go instead. 2 days later, using the hotel address Vanessa had sent Malik, Tyrone drove to meet her. It was around 4 in the afternoon, and Vanessa's flight was scheduled for 6. Standing outside the room, Tyrone knocked on the door. From inside, Vanessa called out, "Malik, you're here? Come in. I've been waiting for you." She was facing away from the door, folding a dress into her suitcase. She was wearing only a thin camisole, believing the person who had arrived was Malik. Without turning around, she said, "Malik, come help me pull this suitcase over. I'm going to change clothes. Then we'll grab something to eat before heading to the airport. I haven't eaten yet, and I'm afraid I'll get hungry on the plane. I'm not used to the food they serve on board." When she heard no reply, she turned around and froze. It was Tyrone standing there, not Malik. She quickly grabbed a jacket and covered herself. Why are you here?" Tyrone walked toward her, removed his sunglasses, tilted his chin toward her, and said, "So, were you expecting my brother?" "Where is Malik?" Vanessa replied coldly. "I don't want to go with you." Tyrone answered, "My brother is busy today. He's at our in-laws' house for a family gathering, so he asked me to take you to the airport." Vanessa shook her head. "I'm not going. If Malik isn't coming, I'll change my ticket and leave tomorrow." Tyrone looked straight at her and said, "You may be attractive, but my brother has a wife and child. Leave him alone. If you're looking for company, I can keep you entertained myself. And if I'm not enough, I can call some younger guys from back home to keep you happy." Furious, Vanessa snapped, "Are you out of your mind? Do you really think someone like you is worthy of me?" Hearing those words, Tyrone lost his temper. He stepped forward, grabbed her by the neck, and growled, "I tried talking to you nicely, but you wouldn't listen. So now you want me to get rough?" He leaned his face close to hers until Vanessa became frightened and shoved him away. Tyrone sneered, "Acting all high and mighty when you're the one chasing after another woman's husband. So tell me, are you going or not?" Faced with Tyrone's attitude and repeated warnings, Vanessa had no choice but to go with him to the airport and fly back to home. After that, Malik changed his phone number and completely cut off contact with Vanessa. About a week later, Leon passed away. Malik loved his father deeply, but there was nothing he could do. Watching Leon struggle through unbearable pain brought tears to his eyes again and again. In the end, he could only pray that his father would leave this world peacefully. After the funeral was over, Tyrone stayed with the family for another 3 weeks before returning to his job. Malik remained at home. Every day, while Nia went to work, he took Noah to school, picked him up afterward, cooked the meals, and handled the household chores. Later that day, after taking Noah to school and finishing the housework, Malik returned to his room and lay down on the bed. Only then did he have time to calm himself and think about everything that had happened. He realized that he had been an irresponsible husband, a coward, and a selfish man. Although he was the husband, He had failed to provide for his family. He had thought only about himself, while Nia carried so many burdens after marrying him. He had never offered her words of encouragement or shared her responsibilities. Even worse, he had betrayed her. Now he was back home. His father was gone, his mother was growing old, his son was still young, and Nia continued to fulfill all of her duties as a wife and mother. As for him, he felt completely worthless. The more he thought about it, the more regret filled his heart. He could not go on living like this. He decided that he would tell Nia the truth and ask for her forgiveness. He wanted her to give him another chance so that from now on he could become a more responsible husband and love her the way she deserved. That night, Malik spoke to Nia. "Nia, I'm sorry for everything that happened before." Hearing him, Nia remained seated on the bed, scrolling through her phone. "Are you still angry with me?" Malik asked. "I know I was wrong. During all this time, I neglected our family and left everything for you to carry. I was a terrible husband. You worked so hard and sacrificed so much for this family, but I didn't share any of the burden. Please forgive me." Nia looked up slowly and asked, "Have you really thought everything through?" "What do you mean?" Malik asked. "I mean the thing between you and that woman," Nia replied. "Who are you choosing?" Malik was stunned. "How do you know about that?" "No one told me," Nia answered calmly. "I'm not blind. What kind of executive follows one of her employees all the way back to his hometown and stays at his house?" Realizing he could no longer hide the truth, Malik confessed everything. As he told the story, he repeatedly explained that Vanessa had pursued him and that the night they slept together happened because he was drunk. Nia interrupted him. "I already know. You don't have to explain. When temptation is placed in front of someone, sooner or later they give in, and a man like you had been deprived of it for a long time." After hearing Nia's words, Malik realized she had probably known about the affair for quite some time. She had simply stayed silent to see how he would handle it. Now that he had confessed, she remained calm and showed no sign of jealousy. Malik scratched his head awkwardly and asked, "You're really not jealous?" Nia replied, "Why would I be jealous of a woman that much older than me? Do you really think she could compete with me?" Hearing that, Malik smiled, wrapped his arms around his wife, and kissed her. "My wife is the most beautiful woman in the world." As soon as he touched her, Nia shrank back and laughed softly, curling up in his embrace. Her reaction only made Malik happier. He held her hands, gently pulled her down onto the bed, leaned close to her ear, and whispered, "Let's fall in love all over again. I love you." Malik kissed her affectionately, and Nia broke free from his hands to wrap her arms around his neck. "I love you too," she replied. That night, after so many days apart and so many misunderstandings between them, the two of them finally found their way back to each other, reconnecting as husband and wife and choosing to begin again. 1 week later, Malik submitted an application to an electronics company located in the same industrial park where Nia worked. Because they worked the same shift, he waited for her every morning, and every evening they rode home together. Malik also rented out the family's farmland and sold all of the pigs they had been raising so Brenda would not have to work so hard. From then on, while Malik and Nia went to work each day, Brenda stayed home, took Noah to school and picked him up, and handled the cooking and household meals. 2 years later, Nia became pregnant and gave birth to a baby girl. Their family was not wealthy, but they were genuinely happy. They learned to share their burdens, listen to each other, understand each other's thoughts and feelings, and enjoy every season of life together. Arguments and disagreements are a normal part of married life, but allowing them to go so far that they almost destroy a happy home, as they nearly did for the couple in this story, is something that should never happen. Both Malik and Nia had their own shortcomings and, in the process, forgot one of the most important foundations of a happy family: the willingness to share each other's burdens. Instead of being patient and comforting her husband after he lost his job, Nia chose to distance herself and ignore him, which only made him feel even more insecure and inadequate. Malik, meanwhile, lacked the determination to face their difficulties head-on. Rather than finding a way to improve their situation, he failed to stay true to his principles and ultimately betrayed his wife's trust. But the truth is that no one in life is perfect. Everyone makes mistakes, and what truly matters is how they respond to those mistakes afterward. Fortunately, Malik and Nia came to their senses before it was too late and found the courage to correct their wrongs in order to save their marriage. The strongest catalyst for that change was Leon, a devoted father who led by example. Brenda's change in attitude also played an important role after she finally learned to appreciate and value her daughter-in-law. And then there was Tyrone, a true brother and a true man, someone who understood exactly what needed to be done and stepped up at the right time and in the right way.